In this episode of our water safety series, we speak with Catherine Kochel from the Finan Swim School in London, Ontario. We're going to go through some water safety basics to get her takes and her philosophies on the subject, and we get an extra special treat, an incredible story about a good Samaritan who ended up saving 5 people from drowning. Stay tuned. Let's kind of jumping into it. So, we've had the opportunity to talk with several swim schools, initially with our drowning prevention series in the summer, and more recently our water safety series this fall and going into the winter. I guess it's the definition, the importance, the need is a little bit different for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I thought the best way for us to start here is just to talk about that. What is water safety to you? Why is it important? And how does that incorporate it into the Finan Swim School?
Yeah, so I mean, water safety, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you're waterproof. You're never really going to be 100% waterproof. But understanding the dangers around water, whether it's, a pool or if you're going hopefully down south soon, the ocean somewhere, just understanding that even though you do know how to swim, there's always precautions that you have to be taking. And then for non-swimmers, just really learning how to swim. So we start at 4 months old, and we've done adults in the past, and just getting people comfortable with water, because I think the first step is, not panicking if something were to happen, being comfortable, and then sort of taking it from there. And then obviously always just safety around water, regardless of whether you're an Olympian or you would drown as soon as you hit the water.
Yeah, it sounds good and sounds pretty consistent. In terms of the Finan Swim School, tell me a little bit about that. So, bring me up to speed on where it started, who started it, what your role is now, all that stuff.
Sure. Well, I will start. So it's Finan Swim School.
Sorry.
No.
I apologize.
I'm really excited that you actually did kind of pronounce it a little differently, because it's my maiden last name. So it's my dad's last name, his brother's last name. He started it in 1981. I've always kind of wanted to change it, because I always say that people come to 3 different swim schools. There's Finan, Finan, however you want to say it. But yeah, no, my uncle started in 81, ran it for about 10 years until London, where I'm from, Ontario, opened their first city pool, and then he sold it to my dad. Him and my mom did it for the next, 20 years as sort of like a side gig. Not their main thing, but they always wanted to sort of teach the London community how to swim. They got a little bit older. I started a family and kind of wanted something that I was familiar with, because I've been doing it my whole life. And then I officially bought it from them this past summer.
Congratulations. That's a big move.
Thank you. I really love it. We finally have our full-time location, totally ours, and it's really great. Somewhere we can all gather.
So was it the family business that drew you to swimming, or was there a natural affinity for the water? What got you into it?
Probably a bit of both. I don't know that I would have had a choice with the swimming. I think I probably went in the pool the first time when I was a week old. I did competitive swimming in high school, got pretty good at that, and then other things in high school sort of got my attention. But then as an adult, I've always loved the water, open water specifically for me. But no, it's just something I was familiar with, something that I could definitely see growing. We've got that great community with Sandbox, of seeing, how far other people could take it. I was kind of inspired to see what I could do in London.
That's fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about the London community. Are there specific messages or specific dangers or kind of areas that you need to pay specific attention to when you're in London, just in terms of open water bodies or, backyard pools and stuff like that? What do Londoners need to know about water safety?
Well, we have the Thames River running throughout the whole city. So pretty much wherever you are, it's not too far from water. And it's a river. So parts of it will freeze in the winter, parts of it won't freeze in the winter. Being aware that even frozen ice can break. And then we're not far from different beaches as well, none of which freeze in the wintertime. So their attractions in the winter, they're really pretty when the ice goes on the sand, and then they're big attractions obviously in the summer because they look like a seaside resort. The backyard pools, I kind of think everywhere in Canada during this pandemic, everyone was like, if they didn't get a pool, they got a hot tub, or you know, definitely a lot more of those.
So have you incorporated any of that stuff into your program, or was it pre-existing in your program?
It was pre-existing, so we don't necessarily do like open water safety. What we've chosen to do is we do backyard lessons in the summertime. So we'll go out to your pool, which is really great for the younger kids, and not only getting comfortable in a space where they're going to be the majority of the time, but also there's different dangers that might be in their backyard that aren't at our facility.
Interesting. So what are some of those common dangers that you find?
Well, in a backyard pool, you've definitely got a lot of the newer ones. They have the gates around, which is great. Some of them don't have the gates, so they're easily accessible to younger children. We would never keep, toys in our pool if we're not in it. Not necessarily something that people are going to follow in their own backyard. And pools, with toys in them for a little kid, they see a toy they want to get, they reach in, they, fall into the pool trying to get it. And it's their backyard, so they're way more comfortable, goofing around in their backyard, potentially slipping in or hitting themselves and slipping in, than they would be at our facility.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, it's great. And so, in terms of messaging, I mean, obviously, the backbone of any swim community is the messaging it can impart on its members, its constituents, so on and so forth. So, apart from teaching swimming lessons, and like you guys have a great reputation out there in London, what is the messaging that you put forth to your members in terms of water safety, and how do you communicate that on a daily basis?
Our biggest message for water safety, it's definitely like articulated through our staff. So I'll probably start with our staff. We are a university town, so we've got older staff, like they're early 20s as opposed to late teens or in high school. So they typically have a lot of experience in different facilities as well. They'll come to us having worked at multiple facilities already. So it sort of changes sort of based on a little bit who's at the pool, but our biggest thing is definitely getting comfortable in the water, no matter where you are. So whether it's our facility or any other facility, comfortable, and then getting them swimming sort of as quickly as possible. Because if you started swimming in April thinking that you wanted to go swimming in your backyard pool, you don't really want to wait around too long to have your kid learn how to fall in and either float on their back or get to the side.
Interesting. So all that stuff, as you would expect, is incorporated into what you guys teach on a daily basis. So what you mentioned about the university just made me think, just going back to the stats on drowning, typically, or not typically, males, 19 to 30, 18 to 30, biggest demographic for drownings. Do you see a bigger number in London? Are you actively involved with helping to communicate anything along those lines? Like, what's the story there?
Yeah, so we actually had a big story in London. A beach that's pretty close to us had a family that started drowning. Like mom, dad, brother, sister. I can't remember exactly. I want to say it was 5 people.
Wow.
And a local man who's training to be a firefighter actually rescued all of them.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we actually were. I didn't actually know about it. I got told by a friend saying that they were going to help that family that drowned. They all survived. They're all okay now. They were going to help them out. Yeah, should have started with that point. They were going to help them out with some swimming lessons. And since this guy was local to me, did I want to reach out and do anything? And we definitely did. So he's younger. I don't know, maybe I didn't ask, early 30s, and he's got young kids. So we had him by our pool, and we did just some private stuff with his girls. And I think they were having a baby a couple weeks later. So we definitely see non-swimmers at the beaches. Um, I wouldn't typically say they're usually teenagers or like younger guys between that 19 to 30 age demographic. Um, Families, I guess, is what I heard about this summer. I'm sure it changes all the time, though.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and it's really great to hear about your community outreach and saying thank you to that gentleman that rescued that family.
Yeah, I wouldn't have done it without being told about it. I apparently need to watch the news a little bit more.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of those kind of divisive subjects now. Like personally, I don't watch the news anymore, because tired of being pulled in 17 different directions, So, but that said, in terms of the community outreach, like it's still really nice to recognize those unsung heroes, and like you know the fact that if you didn't watch the news, you don't know who this guy is, means that he's selfless. He's not doing it. He
Yeah.
truly did it to help, which is great, right?
Oh,
So
he was an amazing person to meet. Hearing the whole story was like mind blowing.
I'm curious. Did he? Maybe you can expand on that and pack that a little bit more. When you talked to him, what did he say about why he did what he did?
So he was at the beach with his family, heavily pregnant wife, two little girls, and I gather that he thought the kids and the parents were sort of like splashing around. There's big waves, like the Great Lakes have massive waves and massive tides. And he starts to realize that they're not playing around, they're just drowning. And
Yeah.
he swims out to the pier to try and help them. And didn't realize how many people were there. So he's like grabbing these people, bringing them back to the shore, and then he says that he lost the mom. So she went unconscious and went under the water. Now the Great Lakes are big lakes; they're deep and dark, so he couldn't actually see her. So this lady had gone unconscious, started to sink underwater, and he blindly just like reached down into the water and like felt her, and picked her up. So that was amazing. And then her daughter had started to like really panic at this point. So he's got like the unconscious mom. He sort of like turned her around on her back, and he's got like the freaked out daughter. When you're drowning, you're not yourself. So like sort of on him. And luckily, a guy on a ski-doo sort of came over, and helped him sort of like get this lady. The unconscious one is fairly heavy at this point. Tried to get her up. So he manages to get the mom on one shoulder, the daughter on another shoulder, and he goes to shore, and everyone seems fine. He's obviously on like a lot of adrenaline. Um, he's talking with the other families, and at this point he thought he'd saved 4 people, a family of 4, and they were thanking him. He's like, oh my gosh, you saved all 5 of them. That's amazing. Like, thank you. I thought the lady was pregnant. She wasn't. But in this like state of adrenaline, he didn't realize he carried 3 people back to the beach.
Wow.
So like he's underwater carrying these people like fireman style, of course. It was like they came for like a couple weeks, and like talking to him every week, it was like, wow, I'm glad you're going to be a London firefighter.
My goodness. So this guy was a firefighter in training?
In training, yeah. So I gather he did get some notoriety off of this. So I believe he was offered a position.
Mm-hmm.
I think. So he should be a London firefighter by
Wow.
now. If not, they should make him one.
I'm really glad we spoke this morning. Like, apart from talking about your school, like that's a great story. In terms of that in that particular situation, first of all, it's great to hear that everybody's okay. That's the first thing, right?
Mm.
Building off that and learning from that, when you go to the beach, and we say Great Lakes, I'm assuming this is Lake Ontario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, like these are like oceans; they're massive lakes, right? And they are tidal lakes. So when you're going to, a lake, a body of water where it can be murky, it's big, it's dark, it's tidal, which means there's currents. What do we need to pay attention to when we go there?
I would definitely say the tides. Most people wouldn't be expecting, just because when I like London's in between Ontario and Erie, so you can really go to either one. Both are massive and have their own things. But typically, I think when people think of lakes, they kind of think of like a big pond. So, there's some waves. It'll be deeper, but in general, like there's fish. I swim around. That's it. The tides and the strength of these waves, like if it's really getting choppy out here, even close to the shore, like it could knock a grown man over. And if you don't know how to swim, or you're even a little bit nervous being in the water, um, if you don't have someone watching out for you, you're pretty much out.
Yeah,
out in.
the idea of having a water watcher or a buddy or something like that really important.
Yeah. There are lifeguards at these beaches, but I wouldn't use that as your plan A. Maybe plan C.
Yeah,
So
and
familiarize yourself, have a water watcher specific for you, and then the lifeguards there.
yeah, and that's a good way to look at it, right? I mean, the lifeguard's there to, obviously to guard lives, but at the end of the day, you really are putting yourself and everybody else at risk if you're going into unknown conditions unprepared, right? And I suppose one of the things that most people, I would venture to guess anyways, most people don't know is that Lake Ontario, parts of Lake Ontario, um, uh, along there exists like the largest surfing population in Canada. Right? Most people
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't know that, right? And that's how big the waves are, and that's how crazy the tides can get, right? I mean, a lot of that has to do with population, but that said, like it goes to illustrate, the strength of the water, the unpredictability of the tides, and so on and so forth. So,
No, definitely.
yeah. So, I mean, like this is great. I mean, like I got goosebumps still from that story you told. So, to kind of wind this down and finish this off, you had some parting words for the London community and people listening, and, water safety is not specific to London, so anybody listening anywhere, what would you leave them with? What's important for you that other people know and understand about water safety, whether it's to do with a pool, lake, ocean, doesn't matter.
I think all of them. If you know you're going near water, familiarizing yourself, not necessarily going there before your trip, but like, understanding if you're going near a pool, what might be the risks near a pool. If you're going near a river, those are going to be different risks than a pool. Different kinds of lakes, the ocean, that type of thing. And just sort of knowing, okay, I'm going near this, and this is typically, what I should look out for, whether that's tides or whether that's, I'm bringing my little kid and there's might be toys in the pool. I should probably take those out, or definitely watch my child 100%.
Sounds good. So water watchers, knowing the conditions, all that stuff there. So, all right. So I'm just going to be pointing like right here. And at this point
Okay.
on the video, I'm going to put the Finan website so people can know where to go. But where are you in London?
We are near Wonderland in Oxford, just southeast.
Sounds good. And people can reach you through your website, by phone, by email, on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook, Instagram. We've got a lot of walk-ins. We're in a pretty neighborhood friendly area. So
That's great. That's great. Well, Catherine, look, thank you very much for taking time today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to sharing this interview. I mean, you told that story so well, and look forward to connecting again soon.
no, thank you, Jason. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
you too.